Today we're going to look at making a blast diffuser. So let's go ahead and jump into this video by starting out by creating our reference image. And I'm building this model based off of a very popular blast diffuser on the market, who, by the way, is not sponsoring this video in any way, shape, or form. But I have been a happy and proud owner of one of these, and it's a pretty neat device. So we're going to bring the blast diffuser in, the reference image, and I'm going to crank down the opacity because I want to actually see what I'm doing here in terms of my modeling. So now I'm going to dump it into a reference collection. Let's see, and do my little color thing so quickly and visually I can see what's what. I'm not going to bother locking it, but what I want to do is I want to come in here and I want to bring in my first mesh primitive. I'm bringing in a circle. 32 verts is fine, but I need to align it up with the reference. So what you're looking at in the reference photo is the top view of the blast diffuser. I'm just bringing my circle down and get it as close as I can to the diameter of that image. Then I'm gonna rotate it to get it lined up with the image. And now I'm gonna extrude it out to the front. I'm gonna turn X-ray on, grab the verts, grab front and back. And I'm going to extrude it along the x-axis to the back. So essentially we've made the overall shape and length of the front part of the blast diffuser. That little piece on the back side is a clip that locks on with a compatible muzzle device for say like a rifle or something like that. That's what it's for. It's meant to keep the blast from a shorter rifle from shooting all over the place and keep fireballs out from shooting all over the place, and it's supposed to decrease your blast signature. So let's say if you're shooting at night, say like a 5.56, 2.23 or 5.56 rifle, it's got a shorter barrel than the 16-inch barrel. Let's say like a 7.5, to give an example. When you fire it at night, it's this massive fireball that shoots out, and it's super loud, and people can feel the concussion from it. So what this device does is it mitigates a lot of that. It doesn't stop it, but it decreases it. I'd say decrease is better than mitigate, because it really doesn't mitigate it, but it does a very good job. So anyway, that aside, so far in the video, I've done the typical things we typically do. We extrude, we scale extrude, we're just tracing the shape of this reference image, and now I'm going to go in and I'm going to tackle the front piece of this and what it looks like, because it brings up a little bit more challenging work. In the past few videos, I've been challenging myself in that I have been modeling a lot of this stuff somewhat in real time. So while you're watching the video here, and I'm just going to kind of talk over it, you've seen like some of the, maybe you have, some of the coming soon posts I've done on YouTube for some of these videos where you actually see the rendered out model. Well, I did render out I did model out a version of this a few days ago, but the version that you're seeing, the modeling session you're looking at here, is a totally new one. I'm making a more detailed version of that first one. The first one, I just wanted to see if I could do it. This one, I'm modeling it in real time. So I'm trying to see if this works as a good format for the videos, modeling in real time. I'm kind of hit or miss on it, because some of the videos looks like I don't really know what I'm doing. This is the way I see them, but it's like I'm wanting to show you guys what this is really like when the cameras are off and you're not doing a video and you've got to make a model for a client, or if you're doing it for yourself or whatever. I want you to see that there is actually, nobody has like all the magic answers. I mean, there might be a few, Blender artists out there who are really that good, and I think there probably are some that's probably that good, but most of us have issues and questions and stumbling blocks while we're doing like model to model. So I want to show you some of that process in some of these videos. So that's why they're a little bit rough around the edges and that thing. That's on purpose. So let's go back into the video of the modeling. I'll quit yapping now so you guys can actually follow along with what I'm doing here. So right now, I carved out a little piece here, the way this blast diffuser looks in the front. And now I'm selecting edges here because what I'm trying to do is go ahead and put my bevels, my little tight bevels on here to start out with. And I added some loop cuts in here to tighten up the geometry a little bit because I'm preparing all of this work for sub D, because I'm gonna run a level 2 or level 3 sub D on this. So I'm just doing the prep work to make sure that sub D, when I turn it on, this thing doesn't look like a blob of a mess. Okay. So that's the purpose. That's the reason why I'm doing bevels right here. And that's the reason why I added the support loops in the front of the device that you saw while I was talking about the videos, was to support sub D. I am restricting where and what sub D can round out, because if I just let sub D do its thing, I let it go crazy, it'll round everything down to a big blob. And that's why you've seen some videos where people sub D things and it just like a cube, for instance, like the default cube in Blender. If you run a level 2 sub D on it, it turns almost into a sphere, because that's what sub D does, is it tightens things down and it rounds it off. So now we're pretty much done modeling the front part of this. And let's go ahead and give it a name, throw it in the collection. And you can name your collection whatever you like. I'm gonna do the color thing again, because like I said, for me, it's just very quick to see my model from lights, cameras, and that sort of thing. So now I'm coming in to do another primitive. I wanna do another circle. I also wanna make sure that that circle has the same number of vertices as the first one did, which in this case is 32. And it's massive because I'm working on a smaller scale here. So all we got to do is just go into edit mode and size it down. If you do it while it's in edit mode, then you do not have to reset your scale or rotation and all that stuff. But there are times when you're going to want to do it. Okay. All right. So I'm rotating it around just to get it on the same perspective as the other. I like to work at ortho, as you guys know by now. So I'm going in the ortho front view because we're looking at the front here. And I'm just going to get it in the middle because I'm going to do the same trick. I'm going to extrude it out from halfway to the front, go to X-ray, select all those verts, it gets front and back, and I'm going to extrude it to the back, all the way to the rear. And that gives me a nice support loop right there in the middle of my shape. Okay, so now I'm just going to scale this down. And what you're going to see on this back part, you're going to see two, I'm going to warn you ahead of time, you're going to see two variations of it, but I've trimmed the video to make it look like it was one iteration, because you're going to see some changes, but I want to go ahead and explain it to you why I did it this way. I'll go ahead and tell you ahead of time. The reason why I did it this way is because the same processes that you're seeing now versus the version of this that you're going to see at the end, I went about the same process making it. So this is not useless content. So whatever you see me doing here, this is how I solved this problem. You may have a better way, but this is how I did it. So I'm using my machine tools to make the threads here for the screw, like where you screw it onto the device, because it tightens down like a suppressor. I mean, it works just like the Surefire SOCOM suppressors. It's the same attachment. Literally, it's the same attachment. So now I'm grabbing some faces here, trying to figure out like if I want to push this up into that other cavity a little bit, or do I want to do the whole face? Because see, I've got this big gap right here. So what I chose to do, because I'm looking back at reference, and see I've got too much of a gap, because clearly it's two separate pieces now. I just chose to go in and let's select all these faces and let's just bring them forward. So basically, I could have just gone to vertices mode, go into X-ray mode from the side and grabbed everything. But, you know, this is just another way of doing the same thing. Less efficient, but, you know, I was already in here, so that's why I did it. So I'm going to hit G on X, and I'm just going to snug it up to the first part here. It doesn't have to be exactly touching it. It just needs to look like it's touching it, right? So now I come back out, and now I want to grab these little faces right here on the inside of this little inner ring, and I just want to push them up inside of that other cavity. Doesn't need to be connected to it. I don't care if the geometry is connected. It just needs to look like it all goes together, because we can parent it and it'll stay connected. The only reason why I'm even doing this is if we were ever take a shot of this with camera and it happens to get up in the inside where those threads are, I want it to look like it's connected, if that makes sense. Like I said, try not to over-engineer this. Just like I've said in other videos, we don't want to over-engineer things in 3D, because if you've got details that are there and you're never going to see them, you've just, one, done too much work and wasted a bunch of time and effort. But secondly, you're adding bulk in terms of file size and memory consumption to your file, to your 3D model. And it's only when you start making really big stuff, even if you've got like an RTX with limited RAM, if you got like less than 24 gigs of RAM on your RTX, like special environments, and you over engineer it, you'll find out very quickly when you go to render it, if you have displacement turned on, it'll run out of memory real fast. So then you have to render it in layers, which we'll deal with that video one day. I'm not there yet with that video for you guys, because I'm really sticking to basics here of modeling. Okay. All right, so I brought this piece here up, and you're going to see, like the final version of this, I did this differently, because this is not the exact shape of what that adapter looks like. And I really don't love the fact that I scaled it down, but for now, take away the smart things in this. So like we want to put a little support loop there right on the edge, like I just did, because when we start carving out some of the detail on the side of it, and they're like little indents that are meant for your thumb to grip around if you're wearing gloves or not gloves or whatever. Having that loop there is going to be a big help. It's going to keep the geometry from getting messed up looking. So now I run a bevel around that edge, just to, like I said, just like before, it's just to control sub D when we apply sub D on this. See, and I'm previewing sub D just to see what it's going to look like. Just getting a quick look. And if you see back there where those threads are, there's like a notch cut out. This was on the first version of this recording I had done, and I chose to take the notch out because it wasn't adding a lot of value to it, and to be honest with you, and it just didn't look that great. It looked better here than it did with the final version. I just chose to take it out, but so you'll see it for now, but the final version, it won't be there, and that's why. So I'm running another support loop up here so that these detail changes we're carving into here don't bleed out into the edge of the geometry and then cause the edge of this thing to look weird. So I'm going to inset to help control it as well. It's kind of like putting a fence around it, if you will. You can kind of think of it like that. And so it keeps the geometry a lot cleaner, and it also limits changes that you make that screws up your quad topology. So what I'm doing right here is I'm going ahead and selecting all these edges because I want them to be more defined. You can see I've got sub D on. I'm doing sub D modeling currently. And I want to grab the ones on the inside because those edges should be sharp, but I'm not explicitly making them sharp. I'm just putting a bevel on them. And when I run sub D and I just slowly crank up that bevel, you can now see that you see the detail a little bit cleaner. It doesn't look like just a blob indent. Okay. And keep in mind, smooth shading is not on. It's just sub D. I just turned a level 2 sub D on. I'm just wanting to see what this is looking like. Okay. So now I come here, I'll grab 4 faces. I want to run an inset, not too much because then it gets funky looking. And then I'm going to go to loop tools and create a circle out of it. And then I'm just going to scale my circle down. And I want to zoom in, go to ortho. So when I start working in ortho and I move stuff around, it restricts perspective because I'm looking at it literally in a flat, almost like a 2D plane. So I grab that. I'm just going to kind of rotate it because what I'm doing here is I'm making a circle that I'm going to push in, or I'm going to extrude inward and I want to fit a little screw in there. So there's an indent, and then I'm going to go around these edges here that made the circle, or the circle shape. Really, sub D what actually makes it smooth and rounded circle. But and then I want to tighten it up with a bevel, just like we did with the indent. I'm just drawing more detail to the edges, and the bevel does that because it's restricting sub D's ability to curve that part of what's selected. Because what it's really doing, let's say I'm doing a 2-segment bevel, which looks like 3 lines. There's like a line in the middle, one on each side, and they're close together. What that's doing is it's causing something called tessellation. And that is what is making, because those lines are so close together, sub D just doesn't have any room to curve a lot of stuff in there. So that's the trick. So now I'm going in here and I'm counting out. I'm looking at reference off screen. I'm actually looking at reference of this device off screen on like a couple of different perspectives, and I'm kind of going here counting in real time where I need these indents to be for your thumb. So you saw we had done one at the top. These are the bigger ones though now. So what I'm doing is I'm just moving, I'm doing counting, I'm grabbing the vertices that I need to equally space it across. There are 4 of them in total, but they're not symmetric around that ring, if that makes sense. Because there's a big bulky part of it up there near where that beveled edge is. So now I'm doing the last one. And I'm eyeballing those vertices, but I don't want to eyeball them. I want to make sure they're actually straight. So I'm going back and selecting all those vertices that I brought up, all 4 of them. And then I'm going to scale them on X and set it to 0, and it's going to line them all up perfectly, just like so. Okay, so now I've got my area that I need to select faces from, right? So let's go select all these faces, and you'll see where we're going here in a second. And notice a support loop on the end. That's keeping us from shooting all the way to the end of this shape, because when I run bevel on it, it would be real funky looking on the edge. So select all the faces, okay? And now let's run an inset. And then a little trick with inset is if you hold down the control key, once you get like the size of the inset you want, you can either emboss it inward or outward. So we're going in because they're like divot imprint, if you will. I don't know if divot's the right term for it, but that's just what's coming to mind. And I'm going to go ahead and create a vertex group and save it as a vertex group here. And okay, and I'm selecting all of these edges right here. And I'm going to bevel them. Okay. All right, let's grab the rest of them. I will show you this part because it's like watching paint dry, as I said in my last video, but it's just it's a necessary evil to get this modeling work done. And there are some people I've seen do this and they're like click, 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 click. I mean, just all over the place, like super fast. I'm just not that fast, and I actually have really good equipment, but I'm just not that fast anymore. So just bear with me, if you will. So the amount of offset I put on my bevel will determine the level of crispness or detail that you see on the bevel. So notice I'm making this bevel a little bit bigger because I don't want it to be super razor sharp. And then I'm running 2 support loops in here to support that geometry. I'm going to do it for each one of these. It's just going to make everything render a little bit nicer, because we got a lot of space in there. All right, so there's our basic shape here. Now, like I said, what you're going to see here shortly is you're going to see a modified version of this, which is what you're seeing right now. This is where I came back in and basically remodeled out that piece there. and was able to add a little bit more detail in it. There's really no reason to show it, I don't think, because the same process you just saw was how I made this one. I just didn't scale that top part like you saw me do initially, and then I just changed the little imprint up there a little bit. It's just, this one's just a little bit cleaner. So I made a screw, and the way you make a screw is if you go to preferences in your Blender and you go to your add-ons, do a search for Bolt Factory. It's free, it's included with Blender. Turn it on and you can literally drop this bolt in here just like I'm doing. I don't know if it's worth me showing you how to do that or not. It's just like you add any other add-on, and you'll see it in your list where your mesh primitives are, excuse me. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just sizing this little bolt in here. I'm actually trying to shorten some of these videos because I've noticed like the last two I've done have been almost 2 hours. So, and people don't a lot of times don't stick around to watch the whole thing because this is, you know, my opinion, we're in an instant gratification society now. So it's like if I can't get it in 2 seconds, like I'm just done with it. But I mean, this is not a 2 second process. So it's for those who watch these videos who really want to learn how to do this, watch the whole thing because you never know when you see something that's useful. But I am trying to shorten them because they are a bit long and the file sizes are huge. I'm filming in 4K at 60 hertz. So anyway, so there's essentially the front part done, the back part, the little tensioner clip done, but we're not completely finished with that because there's another part I got to make. So there's a little black metal clip that fits right there where I'm pointing right now that essentially is a release handle for when you're taking the lock tension off of the blast diffuser. So like if you want to take the blast diffuser, let's say if this was a suppressor, you want to take it off the rifle, there's a little clip there. You hit it one time and you turn it to the left and it loosens it up, and that allows you to screw it off, and then it comes off very quick. It's like a quick detach system, if you will. I'm making a little clip now for that. So start with a plane because it's fairly flat. There's some depth to it, but it's fairly flat. And I'm just kind of sizing it up in this little groove right here that I made. Like I said, it doesn't need to be perfect, guys. Just get it kind of close, and then you can refine it later. I'm going straight down on the Z-axis because I want to make sure it's going straight down because I'm doing it in a view that is not orthographic view. That way you don't have stuff skewed left and right and all kind of weird directions. And notice I'm just adding loop cuts and manipulating the cuts of a basic flat plane at the moment. All right, so let's separate it out so you can see it by itself. So I just want to bring that over. I'm just basically making the shape, and the reason why I know what the shape looks like is, like I said, you guys can't see it, but off screen on another display, I actually have a reference photo. I'm looking at it, and I'm building it as I'm recording this video in real time. So I just let like little background music play for a little bit, and you guys can just watch and see what I'm doing here. I'll tell you what I'm doing with these bends right quick. I'm trying to get it to kind of follow the curvature of this of that adapter that it's going over up to a point, and then where the latch, it kind of sticks up above it, because I'm mentally in my head keeping in mind that sub D is going to smooth that out quite a bit, and it's going to be closer to that curvature than it looks like now. Right now it's all angled and flat and straight and all that good stuff, but sub D is not turned on yet. So keep that in mind too as you're modeling stuff out. I could have also chosen those faces from the adapter. I could have separated them out, or basically I could have made a copy of them, separated into a new object. I did try that method the first time I made this and I didn't love it. So I figured it made more sense to model out the latch by itself, because in the real world, the latch that's on the real device was not molded from the adapter. It was a separate piece that was made. So I want to model it similar to the way they would have built it for real. All right, so I added solidify on there. Got it. Well, it looks pretty decent. But I'm not really feeling that little angled edge right there, which is like the little latch head. I want to apply the solidify because I am good with it, but you'll see that I'm going to go in and change the little latch head piece, which you guys probably have no idea what I'm talking about when I say latch head, but all right, let's go in here and see. I'm just finessing things right now. So I'm trying every angle I can to manipulate this without having to go into ortho. But sometimes ortho, you just got to do it. Because at least in ortho, like I've said in other videos, I can guarantee that when I make a move on something, it's going to be in the right axis that I want it to be in. It will absolutely be straight. Even though from here in perspective, it doesn't look like it's straight. It looks like it's skewed off to the right a little bit, but it's not. It's just the perspective of the viewport I'm in right now. And that's something else with Blender you guys will get used to seeing. And I think you can actually manipulate that somehow and change it. I just don't right off the top of my head know how to do it. And it's not so much of a problem I need to know how to do it. All right, so here's that head I was talking about, the head of that clip, that release head. I don't like it, so let's go ahead and select all of these faces, and let's run a loop cut in there, and then let's select all of these faces here, and let's just get rid of this. So I just don't like the way it looks, and I'm okay with just starting over from that point. All right, so get rid of all of these little faces that are left over. And I want to come in here and I want to fill this. Okay. So from this piece here, then we're going to build out that piece that we tried to do before. And I think this is going to look a little bit nicer. So I'm going to go ahead and select this face and I want to extrude it out. I'll select these two top faces, I'm gonna extrude them up because this is the thicker, bigger piece of metal right here. And now I'm going to edge select mode, and then I want to move these edges closer to the front. And I'm gonna bring them down just a little bit because this is where I guess your thumb would hit this. I believe it's the thumb, the way they designed it, it's the thumb that hits it to release the mechanism. I'm gonna bring these down and back a little bit. Just a little bit. Like I said, we're just finessing it now. And if we run sub D, we're definitely gonna need more geometry. So I'm beveling those edges. Like I said, think of it like a fence. I'm restricting where the curving happens. So let's put some geo in here. I'm going to do 4 cuts. I want it to keep its roundness, so I'm not doing cuts in the other direction on purpose. Let's do 2 here. I want this just to flow like a little stream of water almost, just in one nice smooth direction. I'm going to give it a name, and I'm not putting a ton of work in this because it's going to be black and you're not going to see it. If this was a product shot, that changes everything, but this for a tutorial just to get you guys to know how to make this stuff. I didn't want to spend another 15 minutes detailing the clip. So, all right. So now we want to parent the clip to everything else. So I want to parent it under the mechanism around the little ring on the back, and then I want to make sure the ring on the back is parented to the front part, the body, and now it's all one. It's treated in Blender as one model. It's still separate, but it'll all move at the same time because we got it all parented up. Okay. And I'm just kind of looking in here, and that looks a little too sharp for my taste. And what I did was I've got a crease on this. I didn't actually bevel this side here, as you can see from the little lines here. So, because see, creasing is non-destructive, so I can pull it back a little bit. And I think I told you guys I beveled the edges on the side of this. I didn't. I used creasing on them. There you go. All right, save file. Just kind of giving it a quick look over. And what I wanted to do is I want to take that head up there, and I wanted to drag it up above the surface there just a hair, and I did it off camera. So right now we're gonna just move into, because we're done with the modeling, we're gonna move into making materials for it. This is gonna be pretty easy and pretty quick. So I'm gonna go to look dev mode, where by default everything is white. And the first thing I want to tackle is I want to tackle the first part, the muzzle area of the blast diffuser, which is the first piece that we built out. So I'm just giving it a name. Like I say, you can name it whatever. And I'm trying to come up with like a color, so the color that's typically used is called Coyote. It's that beige tan color. I'm coming up with a variant of that. Like I said, for the sake of the tutorial, I'm not trying to over-engineer it, but that's what I'm shooting for. And in look dev, it looks like it's more gold. Part of that's because of the HDRI I've got applied to the lighting. It adds more green and blue to it, so it's throwing the color hue off a little bit. But I'm personally aware of that, but I'm just going to explain it to you guys who don't know my settings on my machine and won't know any better. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to come in here on the second part, use the same material, and then I hit the little shield icon that has it shows like how many things are using that same material. I click it, so now it's making its own material, and basically what I'm just making a darker tone of that same color. And now I can go in here and change the materials a little bit. I can crank down the roughness, make it a little bit shinier, and that's what I was after, like so. Save the file. Okay, now I want the screw. I'm gonna make a new material. I'm gonna use this, whatever this material is I use for this black screw. I want the same material to be on the on that little clip that we made at the end of the modeling session. Okay, and I'm looking at it, and it's not quite shiny enough. And I did notice too that shade smooth wasn't enabled, so now it is. But what I want to come here is I want to go in here and I want to just crank down the roughness a little bit, because on the real item that thing's a bit shiny. Actually, it screws about the same shininess too. So, all right. And now I'm coming in here. I'm going to deal with these threads finally. So I'm going to show you a couple ways to do this. You can either manually select all of these faces, or you can go into face edit mode and drag and select faces, which if it's a pretty straight shape, it'll get you there. Or you can hit the C key and do it that way. So that's how I did it. I'm now hit the plus button and I'm making a new material, and I'm going to hit assign, just like we did in the last video with the microphone, excuse me, with the NAS. And I'm going to crank down the roughness, and it's just assigning this material to the selection that I made. All right. So I'm going to crank down the brightness here. It's not so shiny. And then there are your metal threads that are on the inside. I'll crank up the roughness just a little bit, save it out. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. All right. So now we've got pretty much that part done. And the next thing I want to look at doing here is setting up a quick little scene just to see what we get here. I'm just looking it over. All right, so let's move this bad boy into place. I'm gonna make a quick little scene for us right here. So I'm just gonna rotate it. I'm gonna move it up a little bit. Let's rotate it a little bit more. I'm kind of literally seeing this shot in my head in real time. All right, so now let's come in here. Let's select the hierarchy. If you right click on the hierarchy of like the selection, you can select everything up under it. I'm gonna hit Alt D, create an instance copy, not a duplicate, but an instance copy. So it's an exact copy, doesn't use any more RAM. That's why I'm doing it. And what I'm doing now is moving it into place like a second one here that we see in our view. And I'm just kind of playing with the rotation here just to see what looks better. Because I know that area where we've got that hump and the adapter with the clip and all that, that's kind of a nice shape. And I'm just trying to compare it to the previous one. And now I brought in my camera. I'm going to adjust my camera 1920 by 1920 square and go up to camera settings. I'm just going to kind of move the shot into place. And it's at 55, I think, and I'm changing it to 85. And I'm going to zoom it out just a hair. Change the composition on the shot again, get it centered up. And now let's bring in a backdrop. So let's bring in a plane. Let's rotate it on X by 90. And then let's move it back G and Y, just back from the model. Let's click it. Let's go to the materials. Let's just create an arbitrary new material for it. I thought about black, but I was like, let's go ahead and do something a little bit nicer. So I'm gonna grab the eyedropper tool, grab a tone off of the front part of that diffuser. And I did this other part offline. We're gonna go to cycles. We're gonna look at it in the cycles preview. I did a little bit of this, what you're about to see offline, where I brought in lights and I did a node setup for that backdrop where it's basically like a radial gradient in the back, make it look nice. And I want to share that with you. So that's why I had it on screen. You may have to go back and pause it and see it, but all it is a color ramp with a gradient texture and all of that. If you like this video, like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.